Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here, NBA DraftKings first look for Friday across the NBA. I said NBA twice, so that's how important it is that you know that it is the NBA. We have got 9 games on. But while you're here, why don't you hit the little notification bell down below? If you haven't subscribed, do that as well. Give it a thumbs up. Also, and let's talk about the games. The first one is the Golden State Warriors and the Orlando Magic. Draymond Green missed the last game for the Warriors, but they said that he'll be fine, he'll be right, he'll be ready to play, and now he has been listed as questionable. So that is obviously something that we need to pay some attention to here for Golden State. If they're without Draymond, they started Michael Mulder in his place last game, but it was Kent Bazemore who was getting the majority of those minutes. So that's going to be something for us to watch for. The Magic, they have listed Evan Fournier and James Ennis both as probable, so we should be getting returns from Ennis, or Fournier returned last game. Value-wise, Andrew Wiggins is down to $6,000. And I know Wiggins isn't the sexiest player to use in DFS, but it's $6,000 for a bloke that's averaging 31 over the last 5, can be a 40-point producer. I think it's not bad value. I think Vooch up at 9.9 might be a little high, but I'm not completely against that. I think this matchup does suit him somewhat. And the 5,800 for Evan Fournier is looking pretty good. He's going to get just an absolute ton of shots. Carter Williams is at 51. Now, we know he has problems with his shooting, but that doesn't really have that much of an issue here for DraftKings, so he should be a 25-point producer, while Steph Curry's at 10,100. That is a lot for Steph, for sure. He dropped 57 last game. He's averaging 51 over the last 5. That's sort of about right. I don't know. It just doesn't feel... It feels like a little bit too expensive in my mind. I guess we could look at Eric Pascal at 3,800, especially if we hear news that Draymond is out. Pascal played 30-odd minutes in the overtime game last time with Draymond out. And then Kent Bazemore, another beneficiary. Now, I wouldn't expect Bazemore to do what he did in that last contest, where he had 48 fantasy points and played 38 minutes. But there is an opportunity for him if we do have Draymond out, because they'll just give up some more minutes to a lot of wing players, and he's the best wing player on the bench for this Golden State Warriors team. The next game we look at is the Denver Nuggets. They are taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Some interesting changes in the Nuggets lineup. Well, not changes necessarily, potential changes. Will Barton is questionable, so he could be returning. But Gary Harris, who came back for one game, has been listed as out again. Interesting. The Cavs, they're going to be without Taurean Prince once more. So, Chetty Osman, 4,800. He will likely get the start at power forward with Love and Nance out. So he is an interesting guy to take a look at. The salary's jumped up, but not too much. While 6,800 for Jarrett Allen. It looks good. I think it's good. I worry a little bit about how the matchup or how he goes fouling against Nikola Jokic. So that gives me a level of pause there. Lamar Stevens is at 3,200. If you haven't heard of Lamar Stevens, fair enough. He is a player that's going to get minutes, most likely, because of the absences of Prince and Love and Nance. Stevens dropped 12 last game. He's averaging 15 over his last 4, and he's at 3,200. So maybe there's value there. I wouldn't say that he's the best option. We also are likely to get Dylan Windler back, so he maybe takes or puts some sort of dent in Stevens' upside. Jokic is at 11,000. We know how good he is. I don't think this is going to be too much of a challenge for Big Nick. I think he is a 60-point type producer here, so that works for me well. The headmaster, Jamal Murray's at 8,000. That is a big price rise for Murray. That's because his recent production has been really, really good. Murray with 61 in the last game, 45 in the one before that. Yeah, big games on a back-to-back there. I wouldn't want to spend $8,000, though, on Jamal Murray. It just feels too high for a guy that has disappointed at that level pretty much all season. We're not going to do that guy next. We're going to do the Chicago Bulls taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons is likely to return, while Shake Milton is doubtful. Of course, no Markkanen and no Otto Porter for Chicago. Embiid's at 10-7. He will tear them apart. I don't have too much of a doubt there. That's a 50-pointer just waiting to happen. While Wendell Carter Jr., the man on the other side there, now he might get into some foul trouble, but at that cheaper price, $5,200, I feel all right about him getting 26 fantasy points. I like Levine at 9,300 as well. Good value there for him. While Garrett Temple, he's a GPP interesting player because he's a starter. He'll play big minutes, and sometimes he puts up these huge numbers, and sometimes he puts up the lowest numbers you could possibly think of. So he's sort of all over the shop in terms of production. Ben Simmons at 91. His recent play has been great, averaging 50 over the last 5, and that includes that one big game against the Jazz, but some other decent games in there too. 9-1 feels a little bit high to me. Kobe White at 6-1 is not interesting, while Toby Harris at 79. I think that's not bad for cash for Tobias Harris. He probably is in and around that 40-point mark on most nights. The next game is the Atlanta Hawks traveling again, or not traveling, they're probably still in Boston, because they just took on the Boston Celtics, so they're taking them on once more here. I believe we've got a spread for this one. The first game, yes, 4.5 for the Celtics, favored by, and the total is 226. Kemba Walker will return. He didn't play in the last game between these two, while the Kerner Clint Capella's at 7,200. Love what Capella's doing at the moment. His minutes are up. His production's up. He's averaging 44 over the last three. That looks pretty good to me. Jaylen Brown is questionable with that knee soreness, so I'm a little bit worried there. At 7,900, I wouldn't want to take that on board, but I would want to go towards Tatum, because if Brown is out, he just absorbs more usage. He's a 40-point guy most nights anyway, and he should be able to push to 45, maybe even to 50, depending on that status of Jaylen Brown. Trae Young's at 9,500, and I do like that. There is good value in using Trae Young there, I think. Well, Johnny Collins at 68. Collins is producing at a decent enough level, but is it enough to justify 6,800? Now, normally you just look at that and go, of course, well, he's easily that guy. But 31, 30, 34 points, 17 points the last 4 games, that's not really where it needs to be. And I'm not sure that I want to use him here. Daniel Tice is back, so Tristan Thompson won't get that same level of production or playing time that he's gotten in the last couple of games. And I think we can say the same for Rob Williams as well, who was pushing up to 20 minutes a night recently. The next game that we take a look at is the Phoenix Suns. They are taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. The last time these teams played, the Pelicans put up some big numbers, and Monty Williams then complained and said, well, I should have had Frank Kaminsky out there. And that started the great Frank Kaminsky starting experiment of 2021. And then last game, Kaminsky was a DNP CD. I'd expect Frank to go back into the rotation here to match up against Zion. Like Frank Kaminsky has any hope in stopping Zion Williamson, but Monty Williams' logic would tell you yes. Now, the biggest value, though, in this game is because Steven Adams is doubtful. So, the big fella, Bill Hernan-Gomez, 3,900. Every man and his dog is going to have this bloke in their rosters or in their lineups. Really hard to avoid. Sub 4,000 starting center who could have a 33-point game. Like, yeah, easy. Zion Williamson is just dominating, mate. He's at 8,400. He's dropping 50 a game over the last 3. You got to love what he's doing. While Josh the Hitman Hart is getting more minutes than Eric Bledsoe. Hart is playing well. Is he doing well for DFS, though? That's probably not quite the same thing. Yeah, 43-pointer, then a 16-pointer and a 14-pointer. So he's all over the shop, but he is at least a GPP guy with the extra playing time that he's getting. Lonzo's at 6,300 and Booker's at 81. I'd take Booker at 81 there. I know I have to spend a little bit more, but at 8,100, he is pretty close to a 40-point producer. While speaking of 40-point producers, Chris Paul, he is rolling. 7,700 for CP3. 49, 37, 48, 50 points in the last 5 games. You feel like he's going to get 40 points, and at 7,700, it makes it a pretty good bargain to get Chris Paul in, especially Pelicans games, which are super high pace and super high scoring. I think Ingram's probably $400 or $500 overpriced as well. I guess you could look at Jackson Hayes as a minimum salary player because he's going to be getting those backup minutes now with Steven Adams likely to be sidelined. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Milwaukee Bucks is the next game that we take a look at here. Now, Drew Holiday won't be in again. This is a back-to-back for the Bucks. Bryn Forbes at 3,600. It's at least just a GPP look to me. It's far from an absolute must-roster sort of a guy, but he is at that low salary as a starter. I think you have to look at it. Brook Lopez at 42. I'm not interested really there. Well, DiVincenzo at 5,300. Had some foul trouble early in the game on Thursday. I like that. I like Yanni at 10.8 quite a bit. He should be able to put up some numbers against this Thunder team. And Gilgeous-Alexander in his second game back at 8,200, Big Shea. Do I like Shea at 8,200? I reckon we can probably spend that money better. 5,200 for Bobby Portis is not a bad cash play, although it doesn't feel great saying that, while Teo Maledon at 4,700 is a really nice tournament player who could even bleed into cash league play with the amount of minutes and the production that he is putting up at the moment. The Bucks are 11-point favorites here, so there is a real blowout risk, and the total is 233 points. The next game we look at is the Detroit Pistons. They are taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, Desmond Bane is off the injury report, so he could be returning. DeAnthony Melton is questionable, while Dylan Brooks has popped up as questionable as well. So that wing rotation doesn't get any easier to figure out. For the Pistons, Sekou Doumbouya is questionable. Ja Morant's at 7,400. He dropped 52 last game. I'll hop onto the Jar train pretty comfortably there. While Delon Wright's at 6,100. We know Delon's been playing at a very high level. At 6,100, though, I'm not sure there's a ton of value in it. I do like it still. While Jeremy Grant at 75. Grant's numbers have been a bit up and down, but I love that salary, so that works for me. Valanciunas is at 7,100. It's bordering on being too much. Mason Plumlee's is definitely too much at 68. That's bordering on being too much for Valanciunas, but I don't hate it. And then you can look at Big Deke Energy. Sadiq Bey, 5,600. Love it. Yep, really like it. Actually, that's not true. I don't love it for tournament, for cash. I do like it for tournaments, though. The next game, the Toronto Raptors, they're going to take on Minnesota. They lost to Minnesota just a few days ago, so you'd reckon they'd want to get their fingers out of their butts and get cracking in this one. No total, no spread released at this stage for this matchup. We know, well, that's the wrong one because that game was postponed, by the way. Mavericks and Rockets, postponed due to weather. This is the one we're looking at. The Raptors and the Wolves. No D'Angelo Russell, of course. While I would find it pretty unlikely that Kawhi Leonard would be playing. Not Kawhi Leonard. Jeez, I am very doubtful Kawhi Leonard plays in this game. Kyle Lowry. I'm very doubtful that Kyle Lowry plays in this game. In fact, I think he may have already been ruled out with his ankle problem. Yeah, he has. So yeah, no Kyle Lowry playing in this one. Aaron Baines at 3,300. Maybe, probably not. Malik Beasley at 6,900 though. That's a yes for me. Beasley was benched last game, but will come back into the starting lineup, while Townsy's at 9,200. Karl Anthony Towns, for those of you who don't know who Townsy is. 9,200 for Towns. Really like that salary. Boucher's at 6,300. Last time against the Wolves, he played only 18 minutes, so that scares me a lot. While Fred VanVleet at 78 without Kyle Lowry, absolute no-brainer. Love that one for VanVleet there. And Rubio is up to 6,200. Last time he played, we had a big game out of Rick Rubio, 48 points. Do I believe that? No. But do I believe he can beat the 6,200 number? Yes, I do. Anthony Edwards is only a GPP option at 6,000. He's a 40-point guy. He's like a 10-point guy. That appears to be where it goes. While I also like taking a flyer on Jaden McDaniels at 3,300. Played a ton of minutes last game. He did start for Beasley. Now, there is a chance that he could start in this one over Jared Vanderbilt, so pay attention to that. While Norm Powell at 6,200, probably too high, and Anunoby on a back-to-back, on limited minutes, we can do better spending our cash than spending it on the Jedi. The last game of the day, there's a lot of question marks in this game because there's a ton of players who are questionable. Mike Conley, Luka Kennard, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Nick Batum are all questionable. Let's start with what we do know, and that is Rudy Gobert is a good price at 7,300. Gobert is continually underpriced on DraftKings. He's averaging 43 over the last 5. This is an absolute smashable one to me. Patrick Beverley's at 43. I don't like that. While Don Mitchell at 83, I would only really consider using the Don if Conley happens to be sidelined. For the Clippers, there's just too many variables here. Kawhi and Paul George could both be back, really nullifying Marcus Morris and Lou Williams, whose prices have risen. Now, if George and Leonard are out, then Lou Williams at 6,600 is good, and then Marcus Morris at 55 is not a bad GPP option. And the same goes for Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles with the Jazz. If Conley's out, then they become pretty strong options. If Conley's in, it becomes a lot harder to use those players. That'll do it for me today. Good luck. Hope you have good lineups. Hope you have success. I'll be back for Monday's slate next week. But while you're here, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and check me out on my channel. Linked in the description, linked in the show notes as well, and in the title, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.